This is Texans TV. Texans Extra Points is sponsored by Community Coffee, strong as our roots, by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by your Houston area Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas, and by Emoji, the official business bank of the Houston Texans.
There may be no football games this weekend, but there's always going to be a Texans Extra Points, and I'm so happy that you're with us. My name's Drew Dougherty. We've got ND Kalu, longtime NFL defensive lineman, and now you hear him here with us. We also have the voice of the Texans, Marc Vandermeer. 3-3 feels nice, does it not?
It feels nice, especially when you're coming off a win going into the bye week. So you get to 500, you feel good about that last victory, and it just makes the off time that much more enjoyable.
Yes, I know you're loving this.
I love it, and I love your jacket. I feel like Starsky and Hutch was our lead-in show tonight, so I'm fired up for this episode.
Shout out to this jacket. Shout out to the great Mike Montalbano for handing this down to me. But okay, we got a lot to discuss other than my jacket because we got to get quick hits out of the way. On this show, you're going to get a telestrator about a C.J. Stroud connection with Nico Collins. You're also going to get a telestrator about the defensive backs and what they've been doing to bottle up some great runners. Plus, we have Texans to watch for the final 11 games of the 2023 campaign, and we got to get you keys to the final stretch of the schedule. But we begin by talking about the offense, fellas. This has been a fun setup through 6 games, a month and change here. Let's begin with the overall broad aspect of things. DeMeco Ryans and his impact on this organization. There are many superlatives we could use, but what's been the impact in your mind?
Just powerful. You know, when I get a chance to talk to the current players and talk about the impact of DeMeco Ryans, there's so much respect for him as a coach and a player. With previous coaches, the players would talk about, hey, he's a great coach. But these guys, they understand and they've seen DeMeco play as a player, and they understand what type of coordinator he was in San Francisco. And to have him as a head coach, I really think they're in awe of him, and they appreciate the fact that they get to come to work for him every single day.
Do you still kind of pinch yourself and say, is this really real?
All the time, Drew. I did it after they beat the Saints. The next morning I thought, oh, DeMeco Ryans is our head coach. This is so awesome. Well, it's that he's made them competitive, right? Every week you feel like you can win any game you play. And I didn't really feel that way the last 2-3 years. It felt like, all right, this is going to be extremely difficult. It always is tough. But with DeMeco, he's instantly turned this team, and I know talent has a lot to do with it as well, but he's coaching that talent and making them into a team that can win each and every Sunday. We'll see where it all ends up this year, but you're 500 heading into the bye, and I think we all would have taken that heading into the season.
Okay, talking about the offense, what's been the biggest surprise for you for the first chunk of the year?
It's C.J. Stroud being so good so early, right? We all thought he was going to be pretty good, right? He's among the best ever starting his career. And this year in the league, you look at top 5 in yardage. Now, the completion percentage is not exactly where you want it to be, where he wants it to be. But so what? He's throwing touchdown passes. He's executing in the clutch. When he got the touchdown at Atlanta, look, that was a huge moment right there. If you were able to close that game out, that was, I don't want to say the stuff of legend, but that would start to add to the legend. He's done so much in such a short amount of time. We're really excited about the future.
We have some friends out there watching that like this type of thing, but it's called the over and the under. So right now, C.J. Stroud is averaging 1.5 touchdown passes per game. If that average holds, he's going to finish the year with 25.5 touchdowns. So over under, is he going to crack that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think there's going to be a game or two where it's 3, 4, and then that's going to really add to the total. He'll eclipse that average. You throw 2 per game, that's nice. The Texans have only gotten over 30 touchdown passes once in franchise history. I think he'll get close to 30 at the very least.
All right, how about you?
Not to be Debbie Downer, I don't want to be negative Nancy or Debbie Downer, but I'm just going to go off the numbers. When Cam Newton had that historic rookie year as a quarterback, he threw 21 touchdowns. So there are going to be games, like Mark said, he may have 3, he may have 4. There's going to be some games where we look and say, he had a good game, but the stat sheet showed 0 touchdown passes, so I'm going to say under.
All right, I'm going for the big over. I'm going to say he's going to break that franchise record and crack the 30s, so there we go. Hot takes here on Texans Extra Points. We also got to get into a connection that we talked about just a moment ago. C.J. Stroud to Nico Collins, our very own John Harris, details it all in this version of the Telestrator.
Ohio State Buckeye throwing a Michigan Wolverine. It works for you, works for me. Let's go to Telstra, presented by BMW, and take a look at a big play from C.J. Stroud to Nico Collins and how everybody added to this one. Let's take a look here. First of all, we're going to take a look at the route and how it's set up here. This is going to be Nico right here. Let's get our little drawing component going here. Nico's just going to run corner route right there, and you're going to have Dalton here. Robert's going to work this way, and Noah Brown, you're going to see he's going to work back inside with that return route. Now, if this looks a little bit familiar to the Saints, it should, because this is the same sort of look they gave in the preseason, and what they did here, it was Dalton Schultz who ran the return route. So it's a similar look to what they gave the Saints, but they dressed it up a little bit differently, because now it's outside receiver that's doing that, and in putting Nico at the point of the bunch, they get him matched on the nickel instead of the corner, Paulson Debo. They get him matched on Alontae Taylor, and that gives Nico, look at Nico. Alontae Taylor's like, nah, you got no speed. Oh, wait, he's fast. And then Nico just keeps the leverage, bends it to the sideline, knows it's cover one, so the middle of the field help is here, not over here. You got all this room. Give your quarterback some room and some space so he can just drop it right in that bucket right there, and that's what he does. CJ makes a great throw, tremendous throw. Great job here, all told. Let's watch this all the way through. Then we're going to look at the protection because it's awesome. CJ Stroud, boom, drops in the bucket. All right, let's look at the protection here from this angle. Now, they're going to bring some heat here. This is the one right there that I thought was a little bit worrisome because Brazil is going to loop this way, but they get it picked up. In particular, Mike Boone. Watch Mike step up and take the blitzer here. I think it's Tyron that he picks up. Yep, he picks up Tyron right there. They get enough of this, enough here, good on the edges, good over here by Laramie, and that's just enough that with that type of pocket, even though Brazil is starting to get through on the loop, pretty good job with the looper there. They don't get this, but it's just enough there. Why? That, and that. They do a great job on the edges and the blitzer, and that gives CJ just enough time to get that ball off. And look at him drop this in a bucket. Oh, man. I could watch that all day. Just drop it in a bucket. Deep balls. Yeah, I know CJ's completion accuracy that day was below 50%, but it doesn't matter because he's throwing those passes. You got to love that from your quarterback and your wide receiver and your protection.
Here's a carry by Kamara and brought down to the backfield. What a play by Blake Cashman for the TFL. Subtract 3.
He had 9 tackles in last week's game, played out of his mind.
Of the many defensive plays through the first 6 games, that stopped there by Shaq Griffin, Blake Cashman. A big one against the Saints, Drew Dougherty, and Kalu, Marc Vandermeer here on Texans Extra Points, the bye week edition. Marc, I'm going to start with you. The secondary, the heroics that they've had the first part of this season, pretty darn impressive. What have you seen out of them? What's going on there?
Well, Steven Nelson, I think, is playing really well, right? He's been out there all the time. He had the pick at the end of the Saints game. He's had a lot of other moments so far. He has 3 interceptions to lead the team, and his presence, veteran presence, really helps. But then you mix in Jimmy Ward, and I know the debut came later than we wanted it to, but once it came, you saw the impact he made. Jalen Petrie. There's so many guys to talk about. We talked about Shaquille Griffin, part of that stop on Alvin Kamara late in the Saints game. There are a lot of players here. We haven't really seen much of Derek Stingley Jr. We will, so that's going to be fun to get him back into the mix. I think they've got some depth back there. That's been proven. They've had to go all hands on deck sometimes. So far, so good for the secondary. This defense, you're looking at top 3rd in the league in scoring defense through 6 games. I didn't think that was going to happen, but they have a big part in that.
Yeah, let's say health holds, and that's a big if always, but health holds. Derek Stingley comes back, and he's kind of who he was at the start of this thing. How good can this defense be? Because it hasn't played together there at the back end, secondary-wise.
It could continue to get better if you bring in a healthy Stingley. Now, that's a big if. We've seen that he's had some issues with his health. But I've talked to guys that watched him at LSU. I've talked to guys that knew him in high school. They say he's one of the best physical specimens they've ever seen. So you get him back and you get him healthy, and he's been here now, and he's been getting his mental rest when he's not on the field. Sky's the limit. I mean, it's going to be so exciting when you talk about the guys that Marc mentioned, and then you plug him in and you put him as a part of the mix. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's so tantalizing because we saw what he was doing in the first couple games. We've heard about his heroics in 2019. Just think about that in practice, going against those guys like Chase with Burrow throwing on the ball. And he was more than holding his own, and then we see what he's done here. Can't wait to see what Sting adds to this secondary. So let's talk about another guy who's pretty massive, Will Anderson Jr. Pluses, minuses so far for the captain, the rookie.
The only minus I'll say is from the stat sheet, and you don't see the sacks that you expected to see. But when you watch the game, I'm just in awe of him. I mean, every single game, every single quarter, there's a play where I was like, man, did you see what Will Anderson did? So I'm not big on the stat sheet, but I get it. I understand that people, the casual fans who don't realize what it means to set the edge, what it means to play the run, what it means to put pressure on the quarterback, they want to see the sack. So that's the only negative, but the positives are through the roof, the way he plays the run and the way he sets the edge.
And the sacks with him are probably going to start coming, don't you think?
They will. Remember, Watt had 5 his rookie year until he got to the playoffs and really got going. And I expect a similar thing to happen to Will Anderson. I'm not going to put J.J. Watt on him, who's going into the Hall of Fame, but Will's off to a terrific start. He makes viral plays every week, it feels like, but Endy's right. You'd love to see the stats of sacks just to shut people up. I think he's off to a good start here. He's a rookie through 6 games. So far, so good. Continue to build on it.
All right, let's focus on the secondary. In some big stops they had against one of the best players in the game last weekend, Alvin Kamara of the Saints. John Harris has another version of this telestrator.
Sometimes the picture you see doesn't turn out to be the picture that is. Follow me here with Telestrator presented by BMW as we take a look at this key 4th down play for the Texans defense. Now, the Texans on plays prior to this have been showing and bringing a lot of pressure on Derek Carr. So now here you go again. 10 Texans on that line of scrimmage. They're bringing pressure again, right? Right? That's the picture you're showing. It's what they had been playing. But this is what leads to Derek Carr making a decision that he might have wanted to have back. And you can already see this as I play this through. Jalen Petrie starts to bail out. Jimmy Ward starts to bail out. And MJ Stewart starts to move over. So they're going from pressure look to a Tampa 2 coverage, a two deep, middle of the field open coverage. You can see the split safety coverage here. So where's the worst throw you can make against that coverage because you have 2 cloud corners? Where do you now want to throw the ball? Right there. Where do you think Derek Carr throws the ball? Right there. Now, why is that tough? Well, look at it. You got a cloud corner here, and you got a linebacker coming from the inside out. Now, Alvin Kamara has made guys miss in the past. He's fought through tackles in the past, but this time he doesn't. This puts him in a tough situation because he's got to get all the way to the 11-yard line, as my finger gets there. He's got to get all the way to the 11-yard line to get a first down. So when he catches this ball out here the way he does, man, there's no way. So these 2 took away his star receiver, and then these 2 are going to rally to the football. And look at Jalen Petrie, too. That's the other one I want to talk about. Jalen Petrie is a yard deep in the end zone. I'm telling you, watch how fast he is flowing to the football to clean up if he needs to. I think that Jalen Petrie would have met Alvin Kamara maybe a yard short, and then it would have been anybody's call at that point. It didn't get to that because Shaq hangs on for dear life. And look, when you're a defensive back, sometimes you have to hang on for dear life. You hang on to a shoestring, a shoe tongue, the sock, his pants, anything, the shoulder strap, and whatever you can to get him down on a 4th down, you just hold on. And you let your buddies get there. And his buddy got there, Blake Cashman, knocked him out of bounds. And then I want you to watch this sideline. Look at Coach right here. Look at Coach. Coach, that's the way you got to react. That is awesome. I mean, look, he takes his cue from this animal down here. Look at this dude down over here. I mean, look at this guy. Watch him. Yeah, we're taking our, look at that. We're taking our cues. You can see both of us. Look at that. Yeah. There you go. That's how you stop teams on 4th down, baby. That's how you get it done. It creates that excitement, not only for these 2, but for everybody in the building. Great job, defense.
Brandon McManus will kick off. 1 yard deep in the end zone. Last time he let it bounce, and this is going to be inside the 10. And this is dropped, picked up by Beck. Beck still going, running to the right side. Beck has some room, 25, 30, 35, 40. He's at the 50. He's at the 45 of Jacksonville. Beck across the 30, the 20, the 15, 10, 5. Are you kidding? Rock and roll. Touchdown, Houston. My goodness.
Yes. Andrew Beck, as we all knew, was going to have that kickoff return for a score. That was one of the turning points, maybe the turning point of the season. Texans are 0-2, and the Jags are starting to get back in the game, and then you go back up by double digits in that one. Drew, ND, Mark, let's talk about special teams for just a brief moment. Indulge us here. Okay, which of these is most likely to happen over the final 11? A blocked kick or a punt, a return on punt or kickoff for a score, or a successful fake? What do you think?
Ooh, the fake threw me. I'm going to say a block. A block is the most likely thing.
We've seen it already with Will Anderson, yeah.
It's hard to get a return going, man, in this league.
Andrew Beck said it wasn't that hard.
I know, but that was kind of a weird situation, wasn't it? And I'll give them all the credit for it.
With a capital W, yes.
Yeah, and it broke the timing of the Jags. It was great. But I think it's really hard to get a return these days on the kickoff or the punt. These punters are so good right now. Texans have a good one, obviously. I would say a block.
Okay, how about you?
All right, you know what else is hard?
What?
Trying to tackle Tank Dell. So I'm going to go a return for a touchdown. Tank Dell's coming back. He's going to be healthy. And I figure if he gets the ball in his hands enough times as a punt returner, he'll take one to the house.
Yeah, how about this? Is this number going to rise? Texans are at +6 in turnover differential, which means they've taken the ball away 6 more times from the opposing team than they've turned it over. That's a great number at this juncture of the season. Is that number going to hold? Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down when we're in week 18?
It's going to hold. And if it can stay where it's at, that's huge. I mean, you're going to win some games because you win the turnover battle. So I'm going to say it's going to hold because it's something that they preach at practice every single day.
And if C.J. Stroud continues to do it the way he has, his first career interception, he is so good that was on second down, and he ends up with a first down for himself after an interception. That's how good Stroud is. But I think ND's right. I think that holds, if not increases. They are very adamant about protecting the football. I know all teams say that, but they're really doing it as an ethic, and it shows on the field.
Does that surprise you at all that they're doing that well in that stat?
I guess it shouldn't. Because, look, we saw even a couple of years ago with the Lovie Smith defense, the takeaway mentality. I know you have different players, new mix here, but you have D'Amico Ryans as your coordinator, had the #1 defense in the league last year. He knows what it takes. Got to take the ball away because your defense looks a whole lot better when the offense is on the field, and that's what he wants to see.
Amen. All right, you got to take the ball away. We got to do a Texan to watch. For the final 11 games, who are you keeping your eyes on? You can't say C.J. Stroud.
Okay, well, obviously all eyes are on Stroud. I'm going to say Devin Singletary. They're going to match the carries, change things up a little bit. They were relatively even against the Saints. You're going to see a lot more Devin Singletary with the ball. I still want to see Pierce, all right? I want to see Thunder and Lightning, however you want to nickname them. I want to see both guys carrying the football because Singletary is so good in his zone scheme. Good pass protector as well, can catch the ball as well.
Man, he took mine. I bet you would have liked Singletary as well. So who are you going to go with?
I would have liked it, but you know what else I like? I like staying in the trenches. Titus Howard. You know, this was a guy that had huge expectations coming into the season. He's been injured. He's getting healthy. But this is a guy, when you team him up with the Laramie Tunsil, whether he's at guard, whether he's at right tackle and Tunsil's at left tackle, you talk about one of the best tandems in the league. I want to see Titus Howard, especially after another week of getting healthy.
All right, I'm going to go with Jonathan Grenard, the defensive end. Let's see him get home. Let's see Will Anderson start to get home and get those sacks, see those numbers start to rise. Because if Grenard's doing it, you know it's going to crank Anderson and Jerry Hughes. Don't forget him. So those are our 3 Texans to watch in the final 11 of this season. Okay, we've got to get to keys to the final 11 as well. It's a little different. It's not about players. It's more about things and whatnot. So stick with us. This is Texans Extra Points.
Extra Points has been sponsored by Community Coffee, Strong as Our Roots, by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by Mattress Firm, the official sleep partner of the Houston Texans.
One final segment of Texans Extra Points, and it's time to do keys to a victory. But there's no game to win this week, so we're going to go keys to the final 11 games of the season. What must happen for the Texans to be successful? Drew, Andy, and Marc Vandermeer, voice of the Houston Texans. You're going to go first. 2 keys.
Well, look, health is obviously number one. That's like saying you have to outscore the opponent more often than not. But I'm going to say continuity on the offensive line is important. They've got to determine if this is the right mix, the way they have it set up right now. Juice Scruggs is going to get healthy at some point. Do you put him in at center? Andy was talking about how good Patterson has looked. I don't know what they're thinking right there, but you got to get your 5 out there and stick with them so you can develop the ground game, because everything's going to feed off that, right? Keeps the defense on the sideline, enables Stroud to be that much more effective. Continuity on the O-line. How do you determine it? How do you establish it? That's important.
It's a good quandary to be in if you're the Houston Texans coaching staff, because you've been able to win 3 games with the lines that you've had. How about you?
You know what? We talked about these guys, and I'm going to mention it here with the keys. Getting your playmakers in space, getting Tank Dell in space, whether it's a screen, whether it's a short route, and having him go one-on-one with the linebackers, getting Devin Singletary in space. We saw when Devin Singletary was with the Buffalo Bills, he was a great receiver out of the backfield. We have not seen that yet to this point of this season. So getting those 2 guys in space, I think that's going to be a key moving on.
All right, I'm going to go with some stuff I've done a few times this season. Keep scoring early. The Texans have been really, really good about getting touchdowns, getting 3 points, opening drive or second drive. So keep doing that and putting the other team at a disadvantage. And then, as always, keep winning the turnover battle. Plus minus, you're +6 on the season. That's an excellent mark. Hold, maintain, or maybe even make it go higher. All right. This has been a fun first 6 weeks of the season. It's been a fun Texans Extra Points. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Andy. You got something? What are you about to say?
I was going to say, I think Lee Majors wore that jacket on an episode of The Love Boat or something. I don't know.
Lee looked good, and I look good, too. But, guys, thanks for coming on, and thank you for checking us out. We love doing this show, and we hope you enjoyed it. So until next time, go Texans.